Right now, somewhere in the world, a man far weaker than you is moving ahead of you. Why? Not because he's smarter, not because he's stronger, not even because he's more capable. He's winning because he projects certainty. He speaks without a tremor in his voice, without hesitation in his tone. He acts like everything belongs to him already, as if the universe has no choice but to hand him what he demands. And people believe him. The world bends to him. Meanwhile, you hesitate, you wait. You rehearse the perfect words in your head, as though perfection is the entry price for power. You hold yourself back, searching for the right feeling, the right moment, the right permission. And while you're locked in hesitation, someone else seizes what could have been yours. Understand this. Confidence is not some optional personality trait. It is not decoration. It is a weapon. And in the battlefield of life, if you don't wield that weapon, someone else will use it against you. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. It is not the most gifted who rise, but the most certain. Boldness can outmaneuver brilliance. Skill without certainty starves in the shadows. This moment, this very message, is not meant to comfort you. It's not meant to motivate you with soft words. It is meant to break you and rebuild you. This is not about inspiration, it's about control. From this point forward, hesitation will no longer be tolerated. Weakness will no longer be excused. What you thought was your nature will be replaced, inverted, burned away. You were not born weak. You were conditioned into weakness. Over years, by rules, by repetition, by rewards for obedience, by punishments for disobedience. You were trained to comply. You were shaped into a man who asks, "Is this acceptable?" instead of declaring, "This is mine." What lives inside you right now is not your true self, it's a servant who flinches at judgment, a servant who waits for permission, a servant who begs to be liked, who apologizes before speaking, who exists to please. That voice in your mind, the one that whispers hesitation, the one that overthinks every move, that's not you. That's the inner servant. And if you don't kill that servant, you will never taste freedom. Machiavelli never whispered. He never begged for understanding. He commanded. He didn't wait to be given power. He seized it because he understood one thing. Those who ask for power show they don't deserve it. Your transformation begins with inversion. Every time you feel the urge to shrink, expand. Every time you want to explain yourself, pause and let silence dominate. Every time your mouth prepares to apologize, lock eyes and refuse. Because confidence does not come from waiting until you feel ready. Dangerous confidence is born in the exact moment you do what the servant inside you would never dare. So you walk faster. You claim more space. You stop nodding like a beggar for approval. You stop softening your tone to be palatable. You speak as though your words are final verdicts, not mere suggestions. This is how a ruler moves. This is how certainty is embodied. Confidence is not a temporary mindset. It is an identity. And identity is forged in defiance, not defiance against the world, but against the weaker version of you that still bows, still pleads, still kneels. Here is your first law. If something makes you small, destroy it. If a thought diminishes you, burn it. If a habit chains you, break it. If a person drains you, cut them off. If hesitation grips you, confront it until it dies. If weakness tempts you, reject it without mercy. And if a part of you still craves to be liked, mock it until it withers. The world will repeat its lies. Be kind, be polite, be agreeable. But here's the Machiavellian truth. Men who build their lives on kindness become disposable. They are used. They are exploited. And when they are no longer useful, they are discarded without a thought. Nice men are not remembered. They are replaced. Powerful men, on the other hand, are not nice. They are disciplined. They are measured. They are precise. They are controlled but never submissive. And it begins by slaughtering the weak. Little voice inside you that still bows for approval, that still longs to be accepted. You need no permission. You need no validation. You require only one thing, the ruthless will to become feared, not by others first, but by the weak version of yourself that once ruled you. Because the moment you kill the servant inside you, the ruler awakens. And rulers don't announce themselves with noise or desperation. They don't storm into rooms begging to be noticed. Powerful men arrive differently. They arrive with weight, with gravity, with a presence that changes the air without a single word being spoken. Their strength is not in shouting, it's in silence, in stillness, in the piercing authority of a stare that lingers longer than comfort allows. You don't need fame. You don't need validation. You don't need the crowd's applause or their approval. All you need is the subtle shift in atmosphere when you walk in, the quiet recognition that the balance of power just tilted. That is the movement of a man who owns the room, not because someone handed him the crown, but because his posture, his energy, his very existence declares that he always carried it. Machiavelli observed this long ago in the courts of rulers and kings. The ones who truly controlled the room weren't always seated on the throne. Often it was the man at the edge of the hall, the one who barely spoke. But when he finally did, the entire court leaned forward, hanging on his words as if truth itself had just been unveiled. That's because silence is not weakness. Silence is dominance. Silence is control. You've been tricked into believing that talking makes you powerful, that filling the silence makes you look confident. But it doesn't. Endless words expose you. They make you predictable, transparent, weak. The real threat in any room is the man who says little, because nobody knows what he's thinking, what he's planning, or what he's capable of. When you enter a room, you are not there to beg for attention. You do not scan faces for signs of permission. You do not measure yourself against others. No, you watch. You absorb. You let the insecure ones perform, scramble, and rush to prove themselves while you calculate quietly. Your posture becomes your introduction. Your stillness becomes your statement. Your eyes announce more than your mouth ever could. And when you move with precision. Slowly, deliberately, not because you're unsure, but because you're in no hurry. Predators don't waste energy. They don't run without reason. They wait, they stalk, they calculate. They strike only when it's time, and when they do, it's decisive. Most people don't realize how frantic they are, how fast they talk, how quick they interrupt, how desperately they try to impress. All of that movement is submission to someone else's judgment. But when you walk in as if the room already belongs to you, your words shift. You don't speak to decorate conversation. You speak to finalize it. Your sentences are not suggestions, they are conclusions. They carry the weight of decisions, and the people listening begin to recognize it. They stop challenging you. They start adjusting themselves to you, recalibrating their tone, their pace, their energy around yours. And here is where true power lies. You let others speak first. You let them reveal themselves. You let them display their insecurity, their eagerness, their fear. Because the one who rushes to speak exposes his hunger, and hunger always reveals weakness. Once you see it, you can bend them at will. You don't chase energy. You generate gravity. At this level, confidence is no longer about being liked. It's about making others question their own standing simply by being near you. That's the shift. You carry yourself as if you've already won, not with arrogance, not with noise, but with a calm certainty that you are not competing, because you've already chosen yourself. If they respect you, fine. If they don't, even better. Because indifference to approval is the highest form of power. When you can walk away from validation without flinching, you become untouchable. And here's the truth. If the room wasn't yours when you entered, by the time you leave, they will remember it as if it had been. Not because you demanded recognition, not because you fought for it, but because the man who doesn't need to demand is the one who cannot be denied. Words are not merely sounds, they are weapons. Yet most men speak as if they are requesting permission to exist. You can spot them immediately. The rising pitch at the end of every sentence. The nervous, stuttering laughter. The constant, I think, maybe, I'm not sure. Every word they utter feels like an apology for occupying space in the world. That is not speech. That is self-sabotage. Machiavelli understood this instinctively. Power does not always lie in what you say. It lies in how you say it. The weight behind your words, the certainty in your voice, the aura of inevitability, that is what bends others to your will. When you speak like you cannot be denied, people stop analyzing your words. They surrender to the sheer force of your certainty. Here's the truth most men never see. People are not rational. They are not bound by logic or reason. They are emotional. They are driven by conviction, by instinct. If you sound certain, they assume you are correct. If you hesitate, they assume you are weak, unworthy of attention, unworthy of obedience. So what does a Machiavellian voice sound like? It is slow, deliberate, grounded. It is final. Each sentence is a decree, not a suggestion. Each word lands like an order, not a question. You speak like someone who expects compliance, someone who assumes obedience as a matter of course. It doesn't matter if you are in a room filled with experts or masters of your field. If you sound like a decision, they will defer. That is the first rule. Sound like the end, not the beginning. And here's something most people will never tell you. You don't need to speak often to be respected. In fact, the more you speak, the more opportunities you give others to analyze you, to challenge you, or worse, to stop fearing you. Speak less. Speak with purpose. Speak only when your words matter. When you do speak, remove all softness. No filler, no hedging, no apologies. Never say, "I'm just saying, I could be wrong," or "I don't know if this makes sense." These are escape hatches for the weak. Burn them. Speak what you mean and leave it there. Let the silence that follows carry the weight. Silence after a precise, deliberate statement is powerful. It forces people to reckon with your words, and most will not dare challenge you because they fear what else you might say. Understand this. The true message of your speech is not in the words themselves. Words are the surface. The tone of your voice, the calm, grounded, deliberate cadence, that is your signal of authority. It communicates exactly where you stand in the hierarchy. If you want to rise, lower your pitch. Slow your tempo. Remove any nervous energy. Speak like a man with nothing to prove and everything under control. Speak like a man who has already made his decision, and the world will follow. You don't win arguments by being louder. You win them by speaking in a way that forces people to treat your words not as suggestions, but as facts. This is how rulers speak. This is how generals command. This is how kings in exile speak before reclaiming their thrones. And if someone dares to challenge you, never defend, never argue, never explain, never justify. Simply say, "I disagree," or better, "That is incorrect," and move on. Because refusing to debate sends a terrifying message. Your reality is not negotiable. This is how you control a room without raising your voice. Confidence is not volume. It is gravity. It is the invisible force behind your words. It is the assumption that when you speak, others will listen. When you speak, the room feels it, not through noise, not through bluster, but through unshakable certainty. You are not trying to be right. You are speaking like someone who cannot be wrong. You are not trying to be heard. You are speaking like someone who does not care if others agree, because ultimately they will. This is power, and from this moment on, it will define the way you speak, or you remain silent. Confidence without control is mere decoration. You can walk tall, speak eloquently, and move with authority. But if a single sentence can unsettle you, you are not powerful. You are exposed. This is the battlefield where most men fail. They master presence. They master speech. They can fill a room and command attention. They can articulate their thoughts with precision. But their emotions still belong to everyone else. A whisper of disrespect makes them recoil. A compliment makes them soften. A moment of silence sends them spiraling into doubt. They are never free because they have yet to master the invisible war, the one raging inside their own mind. True power begins with rewiring your identity. Machiavelli understood this intimately, observing the corridors of power. He did not fear enemies. They are predictable. He feared dependency, emotional or otherwise. He did not trust affection, flattery, or loyalty. He trusted control. Because once people know what moves you, they know where to press. And once they know where to press, you are no longer dangerous. You are manageable. And manageable men, history shows, are discarded the moment they lose usefulness. Here is the transformation. You stop being the man who reacts, and you become the man who calculates. Someone insults you, you do not react. You do not justify. You observe. You extract intelligence. What are they attempting to gain? What are they hiding behind the insult? Someone compliments you? You do not melt. You analyze. Why now? What do they hope to achieve? What are they signaling through praise? Someone ignores you? You do not panic. You do not seek attention. You grow colder. Silence becomes your weapon rather than your wound. This is what it means to become psychologically unreachable, not emotionless, but unshakable. You feel everything, but you act on nothing unless it serves your calculated outcome. When someone tests you, you do not lash out. You display no discomfort, no visible reaction. Why? Because your mind is not a public space. It is a fortress, and you decide who enters. This is how you stop being manipulated. Most men are laughably easy to control. Tell them they're not good enough, and they over-explain. Tell them they're exceptional, and they chase you relentlessly. Pull away emotionally, and they beg to reconnect. This is not power, it is programming. And until you break the code, you will always be someone else's tool. So how do you rewire yourself? First, you kill the need to be understood. That desire to explain yourself, to be seen, to be validated, that is the root virus. It is what makes you controllable. Burn it. You do not exist to be understood. You exist to move the world around you, strategically, surgically, silently. You kill the fear of rejection. The Machiavellian mind does not chase acceptance, it controls access. You do not seek invitation. You make people wonder what happens when they are no longer allowed near you. You kill the habit of reacting emotionally. Emotions exist, yes, but they are irrelevant unless weaponized. You are angry, use it as fuel. You are insulted, use it as leverage. You are doubted, use it as silence. And then let the results speak. This is how powerful men are built. They do not become robotic, they become undeniable. Once no one can move you emotionally, they can only watch you move with precision, predict your actions, and fear what you might do next. Let others chase peace and understanding. You chase clarity, control, and inevitability. The world does not respond to feelings. It responds only to what you project: certainty, direction, gravity. When your identity becomes unshakable, you become dangerous, not because you are violent, not because you are loud, but because you are unreachable. People around you will try. They will test you. They will praise you. They will ignore you. They will tempt you, but nothing works. You remain the same, cold, calm, calculated. And in time, they stop trying to manipulate you, because they realize something terrifying. You are the one person they cannot move. This is the final transformation. Not posture, not speech, not appearance, but identity. You no longer exist to be shaped by others. You shape the room. You shape the rules. You shape the outcome. You don't need to be understood. You don't need to be accepted. You don't need anything from anyone, because now you belong to no one, and that is what makes you untouchable. Rejection is a wound to the weak. To the powerful, it is a signal. A message. A gift from the world saying you were too available, too obvious, too eager. Good. Now you know what must be destroyed. Understand this. Rejection is never personal. It is positional. People reject what they believe they can survive without. If they say no to you, it is not an insult. It is intelligence. They are revealing where they stand and where you stand. And that knowledge allows you to position yourself to strike later. Untouchable, unmovable, unstoppable. Step 1. Never appear affected. The moment you show pain, they win. This is not about them. It is about your legend. A Machiavellian mind does not panic when the door closes. It makes the room colder. You were not rejected. They were disqualified from accessing you. Rejection only exists when you acknowledge it. So you do not react. You evolve. Step 2. Withdraw your presence as a weapon. What happens when something you took for granted disappears? You feel its weight. You feel its value. That is exactly what you do when rejected. You vanish. No explanations. No emotional farewells. Just a strategic absence. While they feel the void, you build. As Machiavelli said, men should be treated generously or destroyed, because they take revenge for slight injuries, but not for ones too severe. Do not hurt them. Make them irrelevant. Let your silence speak louder than words. Make them wonder where you went, how far you have gone, and if they ever had access to you at all. Step 3. Reframe the narrative. Rejection only has power if it looks like you were chasing. Rewrite the story, not for them, but for yourself. You were not rejected. You selected yourself out of a game too small for your ambition. You allowed them to say no because you were observing their behavior. You gave them one opportunity to prove they recognized power. They failed, and in their failure, they revealed everything you needed to know. Now you vanish and upgrade. Step 4. Convert rejection into control. This is where you win. Rejection brings clarity. Most people live in confusion, unaware of who respects them, who fears them, who uses them. Rejection slices through the fog like a blade. Now you know who is blind. Now you know where your power has yet to land. So what do? You refine your edge. You sharpen your image. You amplify your value so loudly that those who once ignored you must now justify themselves when your name is mentioned. And when they return, they will find you elevated. You do not even need to reject them. They are already beyond reach. That is control. Silent, permanent, elegant control. Step 5. Weaponize your comeback. The goal is never revenge. Revenge is emotional. Machiavellian power is calculated. You allow time to handle payback. You reappear only when your presence creates discomfort. When your success is undeniable, visible, impossible to ignore. When those who rejected you are watching you dominate the very space they assumed they controlled. You say nothing. No spite, no ego, no need for acknowledgement. A glance, or even better, no glance at all, suffices. You are no longer seeking acceptance. You are setting the standard. Final word, rejection is not defeat. It is the test, the filter, the fire. It exposes what must be cold, what must be severed, and who must be left behind. You were not rejected. You were redirected toward a version of yourself that does not ask twice, does not flinch, and does not wait to be chosen. Build in silence. Return as a force they cannot reject even if they tried. You have been reshaped, not inspired, not motivated. Rebuilt from the inside out. You destroyed self-doubt, not with words but with action. You did not wait to feel ready. You moved. You acted. You learned that power does not belong to the perfect. It belongs to the bold. You took rejection and transformed it into fuel. No more chasing approval. Now you make people feel the cost of losing you. You became scarce, strategic, silent. They noticed. You stopped entering rooms to be accepted. Now you own them through presence, posture, and precision. You no longer speak to be heard. You speak as if no one can afford to disagree. Above all, you rewired your identity. You are no longer predictable. You are no longer easily moved. You are unreachable, emotionally untouchable. They cannot provoke you. They cannot tempt you. They cannot shake you. You belong to no one. And that is what makes you unforgettable. This is how legends are made. Not with noise, not with fame, with powerful silence. Cold clarity, ruthless consistency. You do not need to announce your transformation. They feel it in your walk, your tone, your absence. You are the man people observe quietly, the one who used to chase, now being chased, the one who used to ask, now deciding, the one who no longer seeks approval because he became the standard. This was never just about confidence. This was about dominance, mental, emotional, psychological. You are not here to fit in. You are here to move the pieces, bend the room, haunt their memory even in silence. Legends do not beg. They do not explain. They exist, and the world reshapes itself around them. Final command, like this video if you are done chasing. Subscribe if you are ready to become the kind of man they cannot control, cannot predict, and can never forget. This is not self-help. This is war. And you have just become a weapon.